The Olszynski Law Firm is an official sponsor of Top Bin 90, specializing in personal injury, criminal defense, DWI, family law, and workers' compensation. The Olszynski Law Firm provides professional, trusted legal services to clients facing a variety of challenges. With a team of experienced attorneys dedicated to protecting your rights, the Olszynski Law Firm is the legal support you can count on.
Hi, I'm Justin Olszynski, the founding partner of the Olszynski Law Firm. Me and my wife started this firm back in 2010 with the sole purpose of providing excellent service to our clients, giving our clients a personal touch because we had worked in bigger firms where we saw that not happening. We handle criminal defense matters, civil personal injury, wrongful death, workers' comp, and family law matters. We have a team of attorneys that care about the outcome of your case, and we will fight to make sure that you get the justice you deserve.
Hello, and welcome to episode 62 of the Top Bin 90 podcast. I'm your host, Bam Maurer Media. I'm here with special guests, Billy. Billy, how are you?
I'm doing great. Got to watch Arsenal lift the trophy yesterday. Incredible feeling.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And the other side of that coin, Lee, CLT FC Fan TV, for the fans, by the fans. Damn it, Lee, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. Spurs staying up. That's all that matters.
There you go. Yeah, ignore the Arsenal
again.
Yeah. I was totally set up when I joined us today, but whatever. Heads up would have been nice.
Good. I'd imagine you had some great fan reactions after this last win. How did the interviews go?
Well, you would think we would, but JT's and his family were completely sick, so we skipped this week.
Ah, dang.
Yeah, they're all in the bed, man. So hopefully they get better. But yes, family first.
Yep, 100%. All right, well, let's get right into the show. Some of our points off the top. Obviously, Charlotte FC holding on to beat New England 1-0. We'll get right into that, and then afterwards we'll talk about Zaha officially announcing he's leaving Charlotte FC. Been rumored at this point for quite a while now. We've been talking about it, so we'll hash this out one final time. Afterwards, we'll go into some position grades and midseason MVP awards for Charlotte FC now that they're at the World Cup break. And then we'll get into what's next for Charlotte FC, specifically the transfer window, what kind of needs to get shaken up now that they're on their World Cup break and the transfer window gets set to open up in July. The U.S. men's national team World Cup roster got leaked this last week. It included Tim Ream. Not too big a surprise there, so we'll kind of get into that. And then also we'll finish up with just what do we think Charlotte FC needs to do to improve the most after the World Cup break to kind of get back into the swing of things and get kind of, I would say, their standard of what we kind of expect from them. All right, let's get right into it off the top. Charlotte FC held on to beat the New England Revolution. I felt like they had a really solid first half, good combination play on the goal. Toklamati receiving the ball over the top from Westwood, missed Vargas a little bit on that goal, but then Vargas able to collect, recycle it to Biel, who found Will Cleary. Shout out to Will Cleary making his first MLS start. I thought he looked fantastic, and then put it in for Toklamati, who had a nice touch, and then finish. Lee, let's start with you. How do you feel like the first half went specifically in this game?
Yeah, the first half, I was telling the folks that was, we were standing with, I felt like that was one of, if not the better halves I've seen Charlotte FC play in our short history. Everything seemed to be clicking, passing around, like you said, recycling the ball.
Yep.
Players were doing their thing. Zaha was actually interested in the game and coming back, right? I mean, not to get onto the Zaha subject too soon, but that's the Zaha I was hoping we would get most of the time this season, right? And it was just a good half. I think Schnee got his first yellow in that half, right? And his first yellow, and I think that was such a soft call. But
yeah,
right. So did it change the outcome of the game? No, but again, I think personally, first half was probably one of, if not the best first half I've seen Charlotte play in a long time, if not overall.
Yeah, I agree. Billy?
I agree too. It was a great first half all around. Wasn't really many negatives in the first half. I would say Diani has to score. That header he had from that close range is about the only thing I'll say. But other than that, kind of unlucky to only get one goal because it was just incredible play from everyone out there.
Yeah, I think, we talk about Westwood a decent amount, but it's just sometimes I feel like how good his passing is just gets a little bit overlooked because he's always putting in the entry ball or the setup before the 2 or 3 passes before the shot or the goal. And so sometimes I feel like his vision and passing gets a little bit overlooked. But man, I feel like he was putting on an absolute clinic in that first half, distributing diagonals to both sides, put in Zaha, threw in on goal as well for his chance late. And for me, he just continued. It's amazing to me how important he is to this team, even though I feel like I have for sure, I've had to eat. I know Lee, you've called yourself out on eating crow about Kalina once or twice. I think I was expecting a little bit more of a regression from Westwood, but he has been absolutely phenomenal. And I think he's still, for me, probably the most, obviously Biel, I'm getting on the end of things and scoring and stuff, but I feel like Westwood is just maybe the most important, the second most important player on this squad. So props to him, especially in that first half. And then Lee, you mentioned the Schnegg foul, the yellow card in the first half. Billy, what were your thoughts on his performance? Definitely was a soft yellow. The whole crowd saw it on the replay. I do feel like Peyton Miller kind of had his way with them a bit at times because there was another moment where I think Ream ended up getting called for the foul, and so they didn't call Schnegg for his foul after Ream's foul, which looked like that was for me more of a yellow card than the one he got. But it felt like for me, if he wasn't going to get that first one, which was soft, he was probably going to get one, and then the second one was pretty blatant at that point in the second half.
Yeah.
How do you feel about his performance, Billy?
He was shaky. Like, he was fine in attack at times. I think he had the joint most chances created on the team, but he was also shaky passing. I think he was 71% of them were accurate. It's what you want a little bit better than that, especially with in general, not up top. Whenever you are trying to feed players, you don't want errant passes everywhere. But yeah, defensively, didn't have his best game and ended up getting sent off.
Yep. Lee?
Yeah, he kept playing aggressive, right? And you mentioned that Tim Ream incident, right? It's possible that the ref kind of understood that he screwed up the first time and let him slide, right? But again, to get one so early in the game, right, and then have to kind of wear that the rest of the way out. And again, as aggressive as he continues to play, right, you just knew it was coming. It was just a matter of when.
Yeah. I think my one concern with Schnegg in this moment in this game is Peyton Miller's typically a fullback. He's been playing winger for New England because, in this game, Luca Langoni, I think they said in the broadcast that he was in Argentina for just family matters, something like that, so he wasn't available. And he's their starting DP winger. And so to kind of get, I feel like, cooked as much as Peyton was, I feel like Peyton was getting behind him a decent amount. If that's going to happen when it's he's an attacking player, but typically a fullback, I have an issue with that moving forward when you're going up against some of the DP wingers that you will face throughout the course of this season. You don't think so?
Well, you're mostly right. I just think at that point, that's when you sort of do the overlap, and then our wingers need to sort of be more defensive, right?
True.
And I feel like that's what Zaha was killing it this week, right? And again, I think we saw 2 good games out of Zaha. His very first with us, and his last game with us, right? And it's we could have had that Zaha throughout last season. I don't think there would be a question about dropping some money on him, right? And so, he showed his class. He's put himself in the window, right? People were shopping, and so he's like, "Hey, don't forget about me."
Yeah, no, 100%. So you feel like when it comes to Schnegg defending some of these wingers, Zaha, just the overlapping and how.
Yeah, not every time, right? But Dean likes to push up our fullbacks, right?
Yeah.
And it's if they're going to have to run all the way to the opposing corner flag, you expect somebody to at least cover for them, right, on the way back. So that is a winger or, a defensive midfielder or whoever, right? Somebody shift over there. But I just think sometimes our wingers sort of get to the halfway line and forget to come back in our half, right?
Yeah. I feel like that is one thing that I liked about Vargas on the right-hand side specifically.
he tracks.
Like he's always so good at tracking, and I think it takes away from some of his attacking opportunities. But yeah, that's one thing they'll have to work out in the second half of the season. Like you said, I mean, if now Zaha, I mean, I guess let's just get right. Well, hold on. Before we get into the Zaha stuff, let's wrap up with the second half.
Okay.
After the red card, how do we feel about the team at this point? It's kind of reminded me of, because this game for me was like a really pivotal win.
Yeah, 100%.
I feel like
win.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think any of us predicted on the show last week for them to win, and I feel like morale was going into this game pretty low, especially with how well New England had played. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Dean throughout the week kind of downplayed the importance of this game as well. Even in the post-match pressure, he did say like we needed this win, but the way he said it, it was quoted. I quoted it that way because that's what he said. But he also still kind of made it seem like it was just a little bit of another game. But for me, if they had gone in the break with anything less than a win, I feel like you're looking way up at the top four of the table. They've got games in hand on you. And it's a really long climb to get up there. And then if Zaha also announces he's gone after that, I think you're in like the fan base's morale, I think, could potentially have bottomed out to some extent. So I think just getting the result the way they did was important. It reminded me of a moment like when they were up 1-0, had a red card, and then completely collapsed against Montreal last year when I think they gave up 4. It was like 4-1 at home.
Right,
So for me, the big question was like, can they hold it together with kind of like a patched up back line? And I was really impressed with the fact that they did that. They didn't even really give New England that many chances. What was your thoughts on the final 30 minutes specifically, Lee?
Yeah, I just thought that, the boys just dug in, right, and did exactly what we needed them to do. We luckily enough, we were already ahead when all that went down. It was just a matter of closing out the game. I thought some of the subs that Dean put on were at the right time, right? Fresh legs and that sort of thing. And, I'm assuming he talked to, it's like, hey, press forward, but at the same time, don't give up a sloppy goal, right? And because, if they had come out and scored, it would have been a whole, it would have been a lot different. I feel like the pressure would have been on the fans sort of. Because shout out to the fans, by the way. I think Saturday was probably the best it's been in the supporter section all season.
Really?
Everybody was having a good time. The weather, like the rain held off, but it was cool enough to, you know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to those fall games next season for sure.
Heck yeah.
And I just think everybody did their job. The yellow, it was justified, right? And the first one was just BS in my opinion. But, we take the 3 points and we move on.
100%. Billy?
Yeah, I mean, they were able to like hunker down, go back. I mean, Privet was good playing right back, and you switch Cleary over to left. He showed he can play both sides pretty well. So that's big going forward. You have depth there, and for him continue to get chances even when you have Byrne and Toffolo back. But just the defending was like good in that with 10 men, and then also you almost had the chance to put the game away, and Pep Biel just puts it right on the keeper, and couldn't finish it.
Yeah, we just trying to have one, right?
Yeah, I felt like Biel had, I mean, obviously he has been extremely pivotal for this team all year, but I do feel like he was a tad bit off in this game. And that might have also just been, again, the red card for the last 30 minutes, limited his ability to get on the ball. But I think he had I look back through it, he only had 26 touches, which is more in what you expect from maybe Toklamati. But I felt like there's definitely, for me, the minimum for him moving forward is he's got to get on the ball almost as much as you can. If he's really going to be your 10, your central figure that's pulling the strings, I feel like 50 touches plus is kind of the minimum for him. Just because you're paying him more money than anybody now, and he's also already proven that he's your best player. So I think limiting his touches in any way is just, you have to find a way to get him on the ball every single game. So I felt like there was just a little bit more they could have gotten from him. And then I think that might have led to that 1v1 chance. He just wasn't quite ready for it, just from limited chances on the ball. And then Billy, you mentioned him briefly there. We've talked about it, hinted at him a little bit, but I think we do need to give Will Cleary a big shout out for this one. I mean, to have an MLS debut start, to start on the right-hand side with what's already been I mean, at this point now, it's not as like patched up as it was early in the year, but still, if you look at, especially in the second half, when you have to have him shift over to the left, and now you've got Cleary, Ream, Morrison, Privet as your backline. If you go into the preseason, nobody would have predicted that's a four that you ever have in the season, let alone when you're up 1-0 and like maybe your most important 30 minutes of the season to date so far. And I think Cleary was a big part of that because his ability to play both sides, like you said, Billy, his ability to get forward and crash forward and make overlapping runs like he did on the assist, but still maintain firm defensively in his 1v1 battles and stuff like that. I was super impressed with him post-match as well. His press conferences, he was really professional and just really ready for the moment. I'm super impressed with him, to be honest. Maybe out of any prospect I've kind of seen come up and make a debut like that, he really stood out to me. What were your guys' thoughts on Cleary? Billy?
I mean, I said to some people in the field, like before, like right at the end of the game, I said Cleary has to win man of the match for this, and he ended up winning it, which good for him. He deserved that. It was an incredible performance. I mean, I think we've said just about everything we can say to how good of a performance it was in like defending in the attack. He got the assist. I want to say he would have assisted it if Pep scored on that second one. I think he set that up.
Diani did, actually.
Diani did. Okay.
So RIP for John on that one because John all game, John in the press box. I don't think people know, but one of our shout out to Conca Corner. John is in the press box a lot, and he does a lot. He's a huge Gianni fan and looking for him to get goal contributions specifically. And there's a couple moments in this game when Gianni had the header right on the line, and then had the assist for Biel, which is like, I mean, Biel dead to rights 1v1. I just feel like, I mean, you couldn't have asked for better opportunities for Gianni. Two chances, one where he sets up Biel, and then his header in the first half where he's right on the line and New England clears it off. So he also, I feel like has, I mean, not only in this game, but has come on really strong in the last few. Lee, what are your thoughts on Will Cleary? And do you feel like he could be pushing maybe Nathan Byrne a little bit for some more minutes or no?
Not at this time. Yeah. Just because the time that Burns had on the pitch, right? Yeah. But we'll say he kind of set his own bar, right? Now this is going to be sort of expected from him. Whenever he comes on, fans are going to want to see that same performance game after game, right? So the question is now, now he set that bar. He doesn't have to get man of the match, obviously, every game, but like now he set that bar. Can he maintain it, right? Or close to it? That's my next question for him, right? As he progresses with his career.
100%. I do actually, for me, I mean, it's only one game. And Nathan Byrne has been super consistent for a long time. I feel like he's probably the player throughout Charlotte FC's history who probably gets talked about the least. Yeah, and part of it, I think, is because of how solid he is defensively. It's one like positive about defenders.
Back in the day, man, everybody was getting on his case about that, but
that's true. That's true. All right, fair. I feel like of late, the last couple of years, definitely maybe gets overlooked about.
He's just one of the most underrated players on that team, I think.
So.
I want to say last year when he went down with the injury was right about the start of that like really bad skid mid-season too. So.
Yeah, 100%. So I think, I mean, it's competition ideally at both sides now because we talked about how important it was for like Toffolo and Schnegg to be able to kind of push each other. And I think now after this game, it looks like Byrne at least has a little bit of competition where that position had been locked down for him for pretty much year over year now. So I think that's at least a positive. And at the very least, maybe just you have a player for the future, which is, I mean, there's a lot of guys in their contract years right now, plus 30 at the end of this year. I think like 8 or 9 guys on the senior roster, they're going to have to make decisions about at the end of the season. So having at least a few guys that can play one or two different positions and be able to maybe step up for a potential start down the road, it's pivotal. Anyways, talking about players out of contract, like that segue right into Zaha announcing Yeah, I'm learning. Here we go. So Zaha announced he's leaving Charlotte FC officially. I mean, I think Jorge first mentioned it like 6 weeks ago that it was like pretty much done. And we had also shout out to Billy. One of your friends pulled the pulled the what was it from Instagram? I think.
Yeah, it was his wife's Instagram story.
Yeah,
months ago.
Yeah, and so I mean, we've kind of seen this coming for quite a while now, but it's officially official. Zaha is out. He's announced it. Club's announced it. Lee, we talked a little bit about this last week. How you're kind of feeling? Obviously impressed with his last performance, but kind of where do things stand now with you? Any changes, or still like kind of get off my club?
Yes, I mean, hey, thanks, Zaha, if you see this, man, for coming into Charlotte. At least bring us a recognition to the club that we can pull a name, right? But again, like we said earlier, there was only 2 games that really stood out for me, right? Which was, and I'm sure there's a few in the middle that I missed, but the first game, and then he came out and said, like, I want to win man of the match every time, right? And we never saw that. And then the last game, it's like, if we could have just had more glimpses of that throughout last season and earlier in this season, I don't think there would have been any question about Zoran signing him up, right? I mean, obviously money comes into play at that point, but from outside looking in, I kind of agree with Zoran. Why do you deserve $3 million, right? You're not doing $3 million worth of work, in my opinion, right? And so where does that leave us? I mean, it's still a big gap to fill, right? Yes, I think there's been plenty of times where maybe he wasn't as crucial to the game, but some of his passes and link up with Pep especially, it was good, right? But I wasn't a fan of his attitude, right? It always felt like it was more of like, we're all against him when we wasn't, right? We wanted this man to succeed, and he just sort of kept being, it felt like he was so negative, at least in the press, right? I know, like, you hear players come out and say, like, I appreciate everything he's done for me, the way he put his arm around me, yada, yada. That's fine. Now, I would have liked to see that in the public eye a little more too, right? Give me a reason to love you, man, right? I'll come back around. Like you said earlier, I've eaten crow. I'll come back around to love some of these players, right? But at the end of the day, I think it's shut the door on that chapter. Hopefully Zoran and co have got some people lined up that are realistic targets, not just throwing some big names out there for the flashbang of it, that we can actually get in, that's going to come in, do a job, and help us with the second half of the season.
Yeah. Billy?
Yeah, I mean, he had flashed at times, but you didn't quite get what you wanted. Whenever, like, you see the name Zaha, you're expecting him to just come in and dominate based off of his, like, reputation, and he didn't do that. He flashed it at times, and he had great games at times here, but it wasn't consistent enough, and you want more than that from a DP player. So, like, what are you supposed to do? I mean, also, it's like his decision to leave. If we're not going to, like, we don't want to pay him that much to stay here. So if he doesn't want that, it's his decision to leave because Charlotte's not going to pay more. So it seems like not only like his decision to leave and not take what it is, but like Charlotte's decision to not pay him what he wants. So it's mutual at the same time, but it does bring up the question. It's like, I mean, it's like, do you have you have to have a plan? Do you have a plan to replace him? And if you don't, then that's a problem.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the other thing that kind of goes missing that you have the official numbers that come from MLSPA of what Charlotte FC were paying, which was like, I think 2.7 million. But I was actually looking back through, and I think I released an article about this way earlier in the season, maybe February or something around that, talking about his contract situation. And I was doing some research on it, and there was an article that had come out when he initially left Crystal Palace and signed with Galatasaray, and I think it was like a $17 million deal for like 3 years. So he might have actually been getting paid even more than the 2.7. It was just what was agreed from Charlotte. We don't know all the details of the loan move, but there's a chance that he actually could have been on 4, 5, or 6 million, depending on bonus. Like after everyone actually pays him across multiple clubs, and because it was like a 3-club negotiation that Zoran. This is kind of why it took a minute, and Zoran said it was one of the more complicated deals they've had to work out. So there's a chance it wasn't even about 2.75 million. It could have been about 4 or 5, $6 million. And then at that range, you're saying, okay, what other types of pedigree of player can we get at double what Charlotte was paying Zaha for him? I think more will also kind of be revealed. You don't even need to maybe even talk to Zoran about it, but you'll kind of, because there's going to be 3 situations that come up, right? Zaha will either retire, and he was just, not ready for the next move, and he just retires early, goes about getting into his like clothing businesses and does the rest, or he goes back to Europe, which I feel like is probably the most likely, and he had another opportunity that Zorn and Charlotte FC maybe couldn't even really actually been seriously negotiating about, because I mean, once you deal with the top 5 clubs, and Zorn has talked about this, like once certain clubs come knocking, it becomes way harder for you to convince the players.
For him, really. I mean,
we don't know. We don't know. I mean, it just depends. Maybe
from Crystal Palace over, right, and then they didn't want him, and then we ended up with him, and then he didn't make the World Cup, for either, right? He didn't make the World Cup squad, so it's like, I don't know.
We'll see. I think a lot of players, and you're seeing this across the board, I mean, with different levels of pedigree, but it feels like a lot of players and coaches are all setting themselves up for World Cup change and like trying to make themselves available, free agent, like just kind of open to the market to see where the chips are.
It's the time where they can make big money.
100%. Or like that opportunity that maybe doesn't come a knocking normally, just happens to, because just what other move. It seems like there's going to be a ton of movement this summer, maybe even more than the last World Cup. And I've asked a few people in the know about that, and it does seem like it's shaped. I mean, you can just see based on the free agency list, like there's like 30, 40 pretty big names already on there, and some of them were under contract. What Mo Salah, I think, was still under contract, and then he just decided to opt out of it, I think. So like, I think there's just there's just a level where I think a lot of people are trying to play the field right now. And so that also could have played.
I mean, for sure, right? I would think when I'm signing a contract, or how long I'm going to be here, like, when does my contract end? Oh, right around the end of, the World Cup. Perfect, right? Yeah. At the same time, I guess it can also shoot you in the foot when nobody wants you, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that will also, I think if there isn't a big move for Zaha, or he ends up going to a league that's at MLS level or lower, then we know maybe it was more about the money, and Zorn wasn't, So if he goes to a bigger club, top 5, I think it's more on Zaha, and just he found a better opportunity, knew he could get out of the deal after the loan and this and that. But if he goes to like League 2, and then you're like, yeah, this. I don't think Zorn at that point was willing to come up with the money, because I'd imagine Zaha would prefer MLS over like the second division of
not the rest. But I mean, again, to Zaha's defense, right? I mean, this is probably going to be his last contract, right? So you want to kind of squeeze that as hard as you can, right? To set yourself up for the next 50, 60 years of your life, right? And it's so, I can see both sides. I just don't think, like you mentioned, like, I don't think it was 3 million or 2.7, right? It was definitely, I'd tack on at least 2 or 3 more on that.
Yeah. 100%. I think that could easily be the case. And so let's get right into, I was going to get into position grades, but I think since it transitions so well from Zaha announcing Charlotte FC, we have now an open DP spot for Charlotte FC. What's kind of next? We talked about obviously needing to fill a replacement last week, Lee. Is that obviously still the first priority? Are there other moves that need to be made? Do you need to unload more on the roster? What do you think?
Well, obviously the one I would like to go would be Abada, right? I just don't think he's not making his money for sure, right? But that leaves us, right? I mean, what do? We put Vargas on the left and then put Abada on the right, and then hopefully Abada starts showing up for the rest of the season, But I think that right now is the glaring hole, right? I think we have okay players in the rest of our positions, just maybe not the type of players that's going to push us to the cup, right? But I definitely feel like Zaha's replacement is going to be huge, and they need to hit the ground running.
Yeah, 100%. Billy?
Yeah, you absolutely have to get a winger to replace him as a DP. I mean, it's just there's not good enough wingers to have like playoff quality on the team, like to try and win a round in the playoffs. It's not good enough for what it is. Like Vargas is good, but outside of that, it's inconsistent to bad out like for the other winger position. And then like hopefully they could try and get rid of Abada and open up a second DP spot, and then you can sort of have more flexibility with what you want to improve on. Like it'd be a significant improvement for wherever you decide if you're able to free up that second spot.
Yeah, 100%. I do feel like the other issue right now for Charlotte FC is they don't have any allocation money. They're pretty much they're like 20, 30,000. So they're not going to be able to make really any other moves unless they can free up some more cap space and some more salary besides the DPs. They can obviously, if they got rid of Zaha, they have the international spot, they have the DP spot open. So that move can be a straight like for like, and they can get another winger in there, left wing, right wing, however I think the upside to having Vargas is you don't have to go with the straight like for like left wing. You can go right wing and have him play in their primary position and move Vargas to the left, because Vargas gives you that flexibility, two-way play either side of the field. So I do think for me, that's also why I know that I've heard rumblings in the past of why, maybe some people want Vargas to be transferred out and maybe even open up the space from his position. But I feel like for me, at his price point is super valuable for what this team can be. For me, he's one of the cheat code players. Tom Bogert talks about cheat code players. He's friendly to the cap hit. He's under $1 million, and he's still getting you around double-digit goal contributions, and he can just eat minutes and do the job. And you need players who can do that throughout the course of the season. So for me, he's actually one of the more underrated, most important players just in terms of their roster build, because of the flexibility he gives you to kind of pick and choose how you want to replace Zaha. And then, we've mentioned it, Bada. I don't know how he does. He doesn't get off this summer. I think he has to be off the roster because
his contract up.
It's the end of the season, but you can technically, I think, after 6 months to the end of the contract, teams can negotiate with players directly. So they can literally be like, hey, we'll offer you this if you wait out your contract. That was the situation with Trent Alexander-Arnold. Mm-hmm. They were technically Liverpool could have just completely lost him to Real Madrid, but then I guess Real Madrid ended up paying them a fee, even though they couldn't negotiate it with him just post contract.
You're talking about the Bosman rule, right? Where within 6 months they can negotiate with other clubs, right?
Exactly. And so at that point, but you can still pay the transfer if you want, just to try to guarantee that you actually are the one negotiating. So I'd imagine, like in Trent Alexander-Arnold's case, there's a ton of competition for that. Whereas in Abada's case, I don't think if you're one of the 2 or 3 championship sides that's really keenly interested, if you're directly contacting him and his people, I'd imagine that's a pretty straightforward process if you wanted to just wait till the summer or to the end of the year, end of his contract in the winter. But at the same time, I think if you're Charlotte, you got to be feeling at least a little bit of the pressure if you're Zoran Krneta and needing to make a move ASAP.
Let's see what you got, Zoran. A lot of people want Zoran out, man. This is a time for him eat crow too.
Yeah, and so I feel like it's important for. Even if they have to, being willing to make the cut. I'm curious if Tepper would potentially give him the green light to be like, hey, if you need to make this aggressive of a move to take that next step, you can just use one of your free cuts and free him up on the roster. That's, I think, going to be one of the more interesting talking points, honestly, even more so than Zaha, because I think that Zaha, it's pretty straightforward. You're looking for another like-for-like replacement, a guy who can step right in and do a job and get you double-digit goal contributions right off the rip with 19 games to go and take you to that next level and get you through a playoff series.
Yeah.
Abada, I feel like that position gets a little bit more open and how you want to approach it, but you got to get him off the roster first. And I think that's still the tricky proposition. I think there's probably a decent chance they're going to have to, if you don't eat a decent amount of the transfer fee in terms of just taking a reduced fee just to get him off your roster. Cause you're only going to get so much right now with 6 months left, but even being willing to just completely cut him. I imagine for Abada too, he's not getting anything. Nobody's winning from this situation right now. So, for everybody's sake, I think honestly, I feel bad for Abada last year because he was looking for minutes in England last year, and they left him on the roster just to not play him during their playoff run last season. So this is drawn on longer than it needed to. Do we have a TAM spot available? Not currently. Like I said, we just have. Charlotte just has the DP spot open from Zaha, and that's it. They don't really have any allocation money, so they'd have to make a transfer to be able to free up and get some more allocation money, but then they'd also have to free up the roster spot. So if Zaha and Abada are they're both gone, they have the 2 DP spots, 2 international spots, and that's it. So it would depend on how they wanted to fill that. They could go 2-4 and add another U22 initiative or do something like that. But I would imagine you're going for it this year and you're trying to just get 2 new DPs right in this summer, especially with this window and how much, again, Zoran has talked about it. Vargas' first years before Zaha, his scoring percentage off attempts was much higher on the left than on the right. Yeah, I feel like I'm still willing to just take Vargas on either side. Like, if you're signing a new DP, he's the guy you're keyed in on. So if he's a left winger, I'm fine with whatever Vargas' stats are opposite him, no matter what. Because you also keep in mind, you also have a Loco. I think that's another guy we should be looking at. Ideally, with the Zaha move out, ideally some of those minutes go to a Loco or maybe even a Berkey. You know, so just some of these young guys waiting in the wings, getting some. I mean, clearly, like Cleary, Morrison, these guys are capable of kind of stepping up into the role. So, I mean, if Zaha getting off the roster is the way to maybe force Dean's hand a little bit. I mean, because that's what it seems like it sometimes takes, unfortunately. Dean seems pretty adamant about maybe risk mitigation in some of these spots and not overdoing it in terms of getting some of these young guys minutes. So if Zaha's not on the roster, it kind of maybe forces his hand, at least in the short term, to give some of these guys some minutes and see what they can do. So we'll see. All right. Up next, position grades and mid-season MVP. So the way I kind of had this broken down, guys, I didn't want to do every single position, but I do feel like there's definitely some position groups that are definitely worth highlighting. So we're going to go goalkeeper, center back, full backs, midfield pivot, attacking mid, wingers, and striker. Let's go with goalkeeper first. Lee, what's your midseason grade for Kalina in the goalkeeper position?
I'll give him a solid 8, right?
Yeah.
I think what stands out the most is that one goal where it just kind of slipped underneath him, right?
Yeah.
Other than that, I think he's just solid for us.
Nice. Billy?
I was going to say a B. I mean, it was shaky at times, but overall, you know what you're going to get, but like it could be better.
Yeah, 100%. I think Kalina at this point also a solid B. And also, anybody watching, comment your grades in the chat as we go through all these.
We're doing F, or are we doing 1 to 10 out of 10?
No, I think letter grades are fine. 1 to 10. That's, man. I know I'm a math guy, but it's late in the day. It's too much counting.
Right. Give him a solid B plus, man.
B plus for Kalina. Yeah, I think B plus. I definitely think there's some moments where he could have done a little bit better, but also it's like
the defenders in front of him have been choppy.
It's been a little bit of a mess back there. So that leads us right into the next group. You got back line, center backs. What are you guys thinking of center backs so far, Billy?
I had it typed out somewhere. Let me find where I had it. I was gonna say center backs. I had it as like a C plus around there. It's been obviously it's like you had to rotate out. It's been shaky at different times depending on who's in there. But when you have your guys in there, it tends to go relatively well.
Yeah. Lee?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give it a solid C plus, right? I mean, I feel bad for you Americans having to rely on Tim Ream to be backing you up, but like time him and Ajiman got to playing together, right? I think they now sort of understand each other a little better, so it's getting better for sure. But yeah, I mean, at the beginning of the season there was some rough times that stand out.
Yeah, I'm gonna give them a B minus. I feel like a lot of the early issues have been, and I think it's still ongoing, and Dean hasn't fixed this problem, but it's midfield control, ball possession, where they're turning the ball over, things like that. Put a lot of pressure on this back line, especially early on when they were the group that had the changeover. Whereas like the midfield and forward lines were that's where the continuity and cohesion they were talking about all year. That's where it was. It was the back line that was going to have to go through the adjustment period and probably get some protection. And I don't feel like the back line got any of that protection that maybe that was warranted. And so given all those circumstances, again, like Dean's been like Malanda being arguably their best player last year, just one of their best players all time in Charlotte FC history. I feel like losing him and having to recover from that as quickly as maybe they have over the last few weeks, especially with also the guy you bring in to maybe replace Malanda hasn't even been able to see the field at all. That center back position, and I don't think that necessarily for me goes on the center backs as much as maybe like how, again, maybe the front office, how they kind of prepared for this situation. Maybe, I mean, or even Dean, like it seemed like Dean was really locked in on giving Privet the go. And then he kind of, fell on his face a little bit there, especially during the LA Galaxy game. And so,
I mean, to be fair to Dean, right? I mean, you can only go off of past experiences and seeing what Privet did last year, right? I mean, he was a solid player, right? It just for some reason he lost his confidence or whatever, and he
in
just
2024 he was awesome. Like 2024, he was awesome.
percent. Yep.
So it's I feel like center back was a tough situation, but I feel like it's a mix of the players, the change, just maybe not prepared for. I mean, Kessler was a last minute signing and hasn't panned out. I feel like there's a bunch of issues there with the back line, but maybe not completely on them. But it seems like C is the range, C, B minus, C. Yeah. So next up, fullbacks. Where are we kind of feeling with fullbacks, Lee?
I'll give those guys a B minus, man. I mean, Byrne, he runs his little engine off, man. And I think Toffolo's been getting up there and getting some crosses in. We just haven't been doing much with it, right? I think, I give him a good B minus.
Cool. Billy?
I was gonna say a B plus. I mean, obviously we've had 4 different fullbacks play, and I think they've all played relatively well. So, I mean, I think you can't complain about that. There hasn't been much of a drop-off whenever you see the backups come in. It's not because the starters weren't playing well. It's because the backups did play well.
Yeah, 100%. I think all of a sudden, whereas I feel like fullback usually is maybe one of Charlotte FC's like positions that's lacking the most depth, all of a sudden we have almost like a like-for-like replacement across the board, or if not like a like for like, just a slight step down, and you have a guy capable. I feel like both capable and pretty confident in terms of coming in and at least doing a job at a passable rate week in and week out. And I think that's something that was missing at fullback pretty much. I mean, maybe not with Nathan Byrne at right back, but definitely a left back almost every season before the last like year and a half or so. I mean, that's one of the reasons why Ream was over there patching it up, So I think that has been a huge improvement. Maybe one of the more improved just positions that has happened over the last year or so. All right, moving up to the midfield. Where are we feeling at with the double pivot in midfield, Billy?
I was going to go for a B minus for this. I mean, it feels like outside of Westwood, you just have a revolving door of who is going to best fit for this game. And there hasn't seemed to be like much of like meshing from game to game, because you don't really have many games in a row outside of like Diani has gotten a few starts in a row, but it seems like they will go from Diani to Brandt to Luca, just rotating constantly for that other spot. And it's just not much consistency there.
Yeah. Lee?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to add to what's already been said. I'd give him I want to say a C again, just because of the rotation, but I wouldn't be mad if Diani just slotted in there. I think he's starting to, the more minutes he gets, the better he's becoming, right? And I think he could be, it sucks because I like Brandt. I wish he could get in there too, but, unfortunately, there's only so much room on the pitch. So, yeah, give Diani more playing time.
Yep. I do feel like there's still another level that we need to see from the midfield group. I think that was where, like, the evolution of this team was really going to start from, was whether or not Westwood could kind of find a partner that maybe helps take this team to the next level. And I think that's also why Dean has kind of switched things around a decent amount, trying to figure out how to make that work. I think, and I don't know, again, if this is necessarily on the position group itself, but maybe even more so on Dean. Like, I feel like longer term, he's got to figure out how to get Luca on the field and make him a part of this team, I think, because I mean, you can't pay somebody that much money on that long term of a deal and like bring in the guy for 3-4. I mean, for me, it means like you have you had a plan in place. You knew who this guy was, and you were so in the know of knowing who he was that you were able to commit 3 or 4 years of salary to him. I feel like that in the minds of Zora and Dean, everybody, like, they had a plan in place in terms of like discussing like what he was going to be, how he was going to fit short and long term. And it wasn't like some of the flags of the concerns weren't there. We talked about it on the show in preseason. Like Tab Ramos had talked about it on his show with Tom Bogert. And he knew Luca personally from like training him at the U20 level. And I just feel like there's no way they also didn't know like the flags of kind of making those adjustments. But like, hey, he's maybe tracking back isn't gonna be his strong suit the way Dean likes to play with with the 4-4-2 defensive compact style. He played in San Diego where it was like heavy possession, like likes to be on the ball a lot. And so I feel like some of those questions were there and ready to be addressed within the club. And so I feel like that needs to be something that.
So to that point, though, right? Well, we're talking about Luka, right? I mean, the question is could it also be the way our schedule was built out this year, right? If we had some more away games, would he be more apt to start him to give him those minutes where the pressure to win wouldn't have been as much, right? Knowing that we're not an away team, right? So we need to get points up front now, right? Versus like we could spread this out across the season. You know, I feel like if there was more away games, we could have probably let him play more, and then hopefully he would have gotten better or, you know, improved.
Yeah.
So I just think there's a lot of moving parts in it.
Yeah. I do think, like you said, both of you guys have highlighted, like I think Diani's improvement has been substantial. I feel like he's become far more consistent. I think positioning wise, it's been a little bit hit or miss still at times, but his ability to now play a little bit more of a consistent 8 and allow Westwood to either be a sitting in 6 that hits long diagonals or get forward and kind of do a little bit of both, I think is a huge benefit. And so if we see more of that, I think for me, this grade goes from like a C- or C, could improve far more in the second half. But again, I still have like we got to see, for me, I got to see more control of this group.
Yeah, Westwood does a lot of the heavy lifting in this group.
Yeah.
So.
I think the complementary pieces around him need to keep finding a way to step up and finding that next level. All right, attacking mid BL. I feel like this is probably one of the easier grades of the night.
Just BL by himself?
Well, attacking mid.
He's the only attacking mid. So.
Out there, go for it.
I mean, well, I'll give him an A-.
Yeah.
I'd give him an A.
Yeah. I think that position is obviously pretty locked in. And then Brace going out towards the winger play. I think there's a wrench in that with Zaha being gone. But how do you feel like our wingers are playing right now, Lee?
Mad props to Vargas, right? And I just something I was thinking about earlier in the conversation. I think with Pep coming along, it really helped improve Vargas's game as well. I know they got a good relationship off the pitch as well. So like all that together has helped him play. I'll give him a B, and then Zaha and whatever is between a B- and a C+.
Billy?
I'd say like as a sort of factoring in Zaha with what he was in and also not being here as a group, I'd probably go for the wingers around a B-. Vargas is the higher of the ones we have left, obviously. And then like, it's hard to grade it right now. Like for what's going forward, like there's no Zaha, but we played the Zaha. So just however you want to grade it, which one, if you want to include him or not, I feel like a B- for me though.
Yeah, for me, I feel like it's a little bit more of a C+. I feel like Vargas has done the job that is required of him when he's out there. I feel like it's a combination of who's kind of the next man up outside of like a Loco, Abada, Small. Like I don't feel like we have another guy who's been able to step up, and whether it's been Dean giving him the reps, I think a Loco got a chance, and it was like, okay, maybe we see something a little bit more promising here, and then he took a back seat after Dean gave him a few starts. We'll kind of see what's next for him. And then honestly, I still, even though Zaha has done decent at times, like again in this last game showed up a lot, I feel like there's still something missing to this group. That my expectations for the front line overall, and we can obviously get into the striker position as well here, but I feel like that was the group to me that we should have seen an immediate improvement from, because it was all the same guys. And it was like the one group that was really consistently the same group of players, no real additions being made there. Tokomati had already started like the last 15 games or so at that point. Biel was back healthy, was going to get back up to speed. I was pretty confident he was going to get back up to speed quickly. I mean, Zaha, Vargas, this group was together, and I don't feel like we saw the next step up for them at all. And I feel like, I think a big part of that is the wingers not kind of maybe finding a way to level up. And whether that, again, is that on Dean, is that on Zaha? I think it's a combination of all of them. But yeah, I think for me, a C+ there. And then finishing up quickly with the striker position, Toklamati, Archie Goodwin. How are we feeling about those two up top? Billy?
I would go C+. It's been a bit inconsistent. It feels like whoever comes on as a sub most games is the better one of the two. and you're getting them for a lot less than the starter. And with Tokolmadi, I mean, he has 5 goals this season, and which isn't like horrible, but he's wearing the number 9 now, and the expectations are a lot higher. Even with the high expectations he had coming off of last season, they're even higher wearing 9, and he just hasn't quite lived up to them.
Yeah, Lee.
Yeah, that's a tough one, right? Yeah, because this is kind of my comment back to Cleary, right? It's like Tokolmadi came in, he actually, took over for Pat and did actually pretty well, I thought. Now it's like we expect that out of him, and he's not quite up to snuff where he was last season, this season. Yeah. He's Archie pushing him, and I think Archie is like, I would hope that Dean's struggling which one to start, because I think Archie can get out there and run for the cause, right? Obviously, towards the end of the game, you got fresh legs versus tied trainers and stuff, but I think Archie might push out Tokolmadi by the end of the season, in my opinion. So I'd give them, I don't know, a B-.
Yeah. See, I think it's not even on the players so much for me. If you combine the two stats, you're at like 8 or 9 goal contributions, which if you get through the whole season, that's around 17, 18. So I think that's a passable amount if you combine that position into one and say, hey, between these two, you're getting close to that, which Dean is even outlined as like his mark is like 20 goals from the striker position. So they're just below that between the two, which I also feel like at this point last year was kind of similar to where Tokolmadi and Ajiman were. I think for me, the difference between these two and last year, again, it's like last year, I feel like it was like Ajiman pretty consistently for 60, and then Toklo would get like a full 30. And it was kind of like your lightning and thunder. You kind of combined two different styles of play and gave them both decent runs out back and forth. And you could see just a solid amount of just run from both, change of style. It mixed it up, I think, for defenders as well to have to deal with that kind of change. Whereas for how even their stat line is and even how even their play and form has been, I mean, Tokolmadi's beating Goodwin like 10-1 almost on minute. It's something like I think Goodwin has like 170, 180 minutes, and Tokolmadi's at like 1100. So for me, that's on Dean. That's not on the players. I think they're maybe passable at a C+, but I feel like for Dean, it's like why are these two maybe not closer to a 60-30 split? When I guess maybe they're more similar in their styles of play than Tokolmadi and Ajiman were, but at the same time, you still feel like if a guy's ready to go for it and be game and give you a hard 20-30 minutes, why wouldn't, and especially when it's not like Tokolmadi's like playing everybody off the field, is like kind of being passable at times. Yeah. Why wouldn't you really let Tokolmadi know, hey, like I'm willing to pull the trigger a little bit more on Goodwin, and then just see how real this competition is, because Dean has even highlighted like how real the competition is, but at the same time, I feel like the field is the ultimate honesty. Like if you're saying there's a competition, but then one guy's got 1,200 minutes and one guy's got 100, is that really a competition?
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, I agree. Right. I think Dino needs to force it more. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think so as well. Yeah. So
I'd say a problem too with it, not necessarily with him as a player, but for Tokolmadi. Just the style we play, he's not on the ball enough for how he likes to play. Like he does not get many touches, and it seems like when Archie's out there, he can play fine, like running like that. Like he doesn't have to have the ball. But for Tokolmadi, it seems like last year a lot, like when he would have the ball some too, it was when he was at his best, and he's just not getting the touches that you would probably want him to get this year.
Yeah, no, 100%. Especially for a guy like you said, needs to be a combiner. He needs to be involved with multiple players, getting touches on the ball. Yeah, if they're not going to play that way, where you're getting Tokolmadi, like Goodwin to me seems super north to south, and willing. Like as soon as he gets on the ball, he is like head down, ready to get to goal and try to make something happen fast. So I think that is one difference. I feel like both of them when I've talked to both of them. Goodwin especially, like he mentions that they're kind of similar in their styles of play, obviously, and then age as well. But that difference of just directness, especially with how this squad overall has been playing, it doesn't quite make sense to me why Goodwin's not getting more of a look. All right, well, we're already almost at an hour, so I'll skip the World Cup roster leak. We can just touch over it quickly. It was leaked. Tim Ream's out there. I don't think really any surprises, but anything else quickly you guys wanted to mention that you saw from the roster?
Come on, England.
Yeah, I figured that was going to be the lead response. Billy?
I mean, nothing really surprising. I know online people were making a big deal about Reyna being picked over Diego Luna, which I don't think that's going to be a big deal at all. I don't think either of them are going to do much for the team. I mean, Reyna doesn't do much for his club, usually does decent at the international level, and I don't think Luna was going to be much of a factor at all if he made the roster.
No. I am excited about Sebastian Berhalter. I think he gets a little bit overlooked, and then also like how he plays gets a little bit simplified at the national team level because of like everybody calls about like, hey, he needs to be out there for set pieces. I think he is way more than just a guy who can. I mean, his set pieces have been probably the best out of the player pool, but I think he's like everybody's talking about Luna having that dog in him. Berhalter for me is the dude who's got that dog in him and plays two ways. He's the one I maybe like looking, especially out of the MLS players that got selected, that I'm excited to see if he can actually bring it to the next level. So we'll see what happens there. Just one last question before we head out. What does Charlotte FC need to improve the most after the World Cup break? I feel like based on our conversation in our last show, Lee, we kind of, I mean, I think it's been pretty unanimous across the board, whoever you talk to, fan-wise, below expectations so far this season. So what, at this point, do they need to do to improve the most to kind of get back to meeting expectations at this point?
I think the problem always has been is that front to back, or back to front, right? And I think sometimes we play a little too slow and like predictable. I'd like to see us move the ball a little quicker. Yeah.
Billy?
I know we had talked about it earlier too. Pep Biel needs to be on the ball more.
Yeah.
And obviously bring in another winger, and then just game-to-game consistency. It seems like each game is very different from the last they played.
Yeah. I think just like cohesion in terms of just like actually putting it not even like between the players, but just between like the game states, like from minute 0 to 90. Like, can you actually get a 90 minutes where you feel confident in the group? I don't feel like I've seen maybe even like that many good 45s yet. We saw, I think, a really good 45 against New England this last week. And then I think it was, I'm skipping one. There's another like one good 40, but there's only been like a couple like where I'm like, oh yeah, this is like a really good 45 minutes. And I definitely don't think we've seen anywhere close to like a good 60 or a good 90. So I think like for me, like having just a good run of form for multiple games, getting back to keeping clean sheets, I think is super important for this group, just because, I mean, I think Dean specifically like really hangs his hat on this team, not giving up a ton of like really big chances. And then that leads to like less goals against. And then, I mean, yeah, Biel getting a ton of touches is super pivotal. And then, I mean, they're going to have to win on the road. They've now kind of almost committed to that this year now because of like already dropping the amount of home points they have. So now they have to win on the road. So I think to actually meet expectations, especially with how you're seeing the top of the East perform, they're going to have to see. I mean, they talked about how good it was last year that they got, I think, the record 19, like most road wins at 6 and 19 points and all that. I don't think 19 cuts it. I mean, they could get still the third win in a row when they come back, beat Atlanta. Then they're at 24 points and 16. So they're kind of back to like their floor of like 50-point pace. But I don't know. The top 3 or 4 teams in the East right now, I think New England is the one that's most likely to slip. But Chicago, Nashville, and Miami, for me, are pretty close to locked in towards the top of the East. They look, for me, really good.
Chicago, man.
Huh?
What a turnaround for Chicago.
Yeah, Berhalter has done, and I think bigger things are coming. I mean, they have one of their attacking mids who was kind of their Brian Gutierrez replacement after he left. He's been hurt since last year, and he came in, I think it was from Porto, so like a big club that nobody's really talking because he's a TAM player. But I mean, he came from Porto, and he had like 5 or 6 assists right out of the gate. So he's going to be coming back probably sometime after the break. They still have an open DP spot. So because Zinkernagel's not on the DP, so they still have DP spot open to improve their roster. All those teams. I mean, Nashville's pretty locked in, but they're on a record-setting pace. So do they need to do that much improving?
Right.
And then Miami is already it looks like they're just going to sign Casemiro, so they're already making improvements. So, I mean, it's only going to get more difficult at the top. So I think seeing Charlotte be able to evolve, like you talked about, Billy, picking up consistent points, I think a big part of it is on the road, because when we come back, they'll have played Atlanta. That's 10 home games out of 16.
We typically do okay in Atlanta, though.
Huh?
We typically win Atlanta.
Yeah, well, but this is Atlanta at home, so they come back for at home in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And so it'll be 10 home games and 16 at that point. So then they'll have the rest of the season. They'll have 7 home, 10 on, or 11 on the road. So 7 home, 11 on the road to finish. And I feel like, I mean, that makes the Atlanta home game, must win. Obviously, it's always a must win with Atlanta, but even more so of a must win, just because you're just getting that win to get back to pace.
Yeah, fair enough.
And then from there, you still got to play 11 road games down the stretch. And including Miami on the road on decision day. So I feel like there's definitely going to be some questions that need to be answered on the road in the second half of the season for me. Nice. Any closing thoughts on Charlotte FC post World Cup break? Any fun plans for the World Cup break, you guys?
Yeah, I hope to see them play in Atlanta. Well,
there you go.
It's out, so we'll see. But we'll probably get to see Panama versus somebody instead.
Round of 16, or which game?
The first knockout stage. If England win their group, then they play in Atlanta. So
round of 32.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
so,
we might be down there. We've got a couple press passes for Atlanta. So
yeah.
That was like the one city we were able to nab. We thought we were going to be able to get a bunch more. So we might hit you up down there. They have I think they have like a whole watch party thing set up at the Centennial Olympic Park too. Big jumbotron, thousands of people planning on showing up. Billy, any fun plans during the World Cup break?
I was just planning on watching the World Cup. That's
Heck yeah.
Plans I had. So
nice. Well, we might have to drag you down with us. Watch some games down in Atlanta during the watch parties or something. There's a ton of stuff all over the place happening. So yeah. Has anything been announced in Charlotte yet, Lee? Do you know?
No, I haven't heard much of anything. It's sort of, I don't know. I just feel like this World Cup kind of just feels weird.
Yeah,
you know,
100%.
It just seems all off. So hopefully it's the best World Cup yet. England bring it. It's coming home, man. It's coming home.
Yeah. We'll see. All right. Well, Lee, where can they find you?
At COTFC Fan TV on all the socials.
Nice. Billy?
At I am Billy McGee on all socials, and Top End 90 and College Soccer News for written content.
Yes, sir. You've been absolutely crushing the written content on both sides of things. The stock up, stack down. That's all, Billy. Thank you guys for tuning in to Billy's writing on that. And then thanks for tuning into the show tonight. I'm Bam, Maurer Media. And you can find me on X at Bam Maurer Media. Written content, topbin90.com. You can find us on all platforms at topbin90. Over and out.
Yeah. And what Top Bin says?
Yeah.